Okay. Hello, hello, hello. I have got I've got a couple of people that have been distracting me, emailing, messaging, saying that they cannot get on the call. So, problems with the link aside, we're going to launch in Hope, and I'm going to just let people join in as we speak. But I wanted to introduce our guest today. I am a tiny, tiny bit in awe of Hope because, like Gina Rogers, you know Gina, YouTube, and Gabra, I always kind of
Yeah.
think of like as the cool girls, the ones that you would kill to be like, the ones that like were in like your teen magazines when you were like a kid and you were just like, I'm going to be like that someday. And that is very much what Hope is to me. And especially since you're in France, which is makes it like kind of like escalate your coolness like 300 degrees. And so the other day it's not the subject we want to talk about on this call, but I had emailed you about one of those subjects going on around, social media, and you emailed back. And I remember going, oh my gosh, okay, she emailed back. Be cool. Because you're cool and you're very, very professional. And I think that's why we all respect you so much. And so let's tell me about 10-year-old Hope.
About 10-year-old Hope. Oh, goodness gracious. A very different Hope. I love that you call me a cool girl because like I was never the cool girl. Let's just be clear in
Were
school or
you in
anything.
school or anything? Were you not?
So maybe in a group of like total book nerds, I am the cool girl. So thank you. I would love that. But no, in school, definitely not.
But
Definitely
did you
not.
not have that sense of rock? Because you seem to have a rock steady confidence. And whether you're faking it or
No,
not, you present with that. Did you not have that when you were young?
no. I think I grew into that,
Yeah.
you know. I think I was not and I still probably want people to like me more than comes across. But definitely so much more confidence as I grew older, right? Like I feel like the better I know myself and the more I get skills and yeah, the more confident I am. But 10-year-old Hope was not confident. I
What was
had
she
I
like?
actually I actually moved when I was 10. I had lived in the Boston area all of my life. My entire like network was there and my parents moved to New Jersey when I was 10 and it
Um,
really rocked my world. It was like I didn't know anybody, I didn't know anything. It was super weird. Um, I started going to Catholic school. That was also super weird.
were you like a bookworm? Were you like in your own world? Did you have I won't bring up sisters and brothers because everyone always regrets it after the call, but were you like playing with lots of kids in the neighborhood, really social, or keeping to yourself? What was your inner life like at 10 years old?
I was definitely a book nerd. I read and I wrote a lot to myself too. I have a lot of like small child poetry, like that I wrote.
Oh,
But yeah, I am the oldest of four children, so I wasn't like all alone. You know, I had a lot of children around and friends in the neighborhood, so I did play with them. But yeah, I've always had a rich imagination. We played a lot of pretend games. Yeah, I read and wrote as soon as I could.
did you think about that? Like, what am I going to be when I grow up? Or were you like in the moment more?
Oh my gosh, I had a whole plan. I had six things I wanted to be when I grew up. See if I can remember them. I wanted to be an actor. I did that. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be an astronaut. But then I learned you had to be really good at math, and I was not. And I wanted to be a mom, and I wanted to be a nun. I thought the nun life was like really peaceful and wonderful. And I was like, I know you can't be a mom and a nun at the same time, but like I'll have the career and then I'll be the mom and then I'll be a nun at the end of my life. I had this like whole plan. So I put some of
I do get the nun thing. 'Cause I always thought, well, they wear black and I look good in black, and they bake bread. And
right. They
yeah.
spend their time doing like things with their hands and then like, you know, being in meditation. Like it just seemed like the peaceful, wonderful life.
Well, evidently in Italy, my mother says there was a problem because whenever we would encounter nuns, like in public, I was a little girl, I would go and like hug them and try to sit on their lap. And like, I had like a thing for nuns, and I guess Italian nuns weren't that friendly.
Oh no.
So
I
yeah.
don't know if young nuns are used to people like running up to sit on their lap. That's adorable. I love that.
So how did things go? We all, childhood, you had the big move, and I mean, because things go a certain direction until they don't, I find. What was the next defining moment?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think well, so like I said, I was in Catholic school for middle school and I was deeply unhappy. The it was an all girls school and the girls were very mean to me. And my parents were like, you should change schools. We got to get you out of there. And um well, see here, this is what you're saying about the confidence thing. I was like, I'm sure it's the same everywhere. I'm sure it's just me. Like I was convinced I was the problem. And my parents were like, no, no, no.
Oh, hope. Oh, I'm
It was
like, well,
awful.
why? Do you know why you felt that way?
Who knows? Why? I don't know. I didn't, yeah, I don't know. I didn't have the self-confidence. I was like, it must be me. Everyone hates me because I'm just not likable. And so my parents really pushed and they sent me to this like artsy high school where like you called the teachers by their first names and you had, you know, fun electives and that like absolutely changed everything for me because then I was like, oh, there are like-minded people out there and
Yeah,
they just weren't at that school.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, isn't there a meme going around, before you try, I can't remember it exactly, but before you try to fix yourself, perhaps consider that everyone else are just bastards. And I mean, there is that. It's possible, but we always direct it to us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good to always to like have self-reflection, but also, yeah, also to have a steady confidence that,
Yeah.
you know, if people don't treat you well, it's not necessarily because you're the problem. That's what
Yeah.
I've learned.
I love that. Okay, so next. So you're now swimming along, you're at this amazing school, the teachers,
Yeah.
uh,
And then my parents actually moved again right before my high school year, and I chose to live with a friend. So I actually moved out of my parents' house at 17,
wow,
because I
that's
didn't want to
brave.
change high schools. Yeah, I guess so. I
Did
guess
you miss
so.
them? Were you like,
Yes, very much so. It's interesting because I live very far away from my family, but I have always gotten along very well with my family. So it's not, yeah, I wasn't like eager to get out of there or anything like that. I just, um,
that's really brave. That's like very mature at that age to do that.
I don't know. I didn't want to start over in a new place again, right? Like at my last
Yeah,
year. Um,
I like
so I
that.
did
That's
that, and then I went to Skidmore College. Um, and I had planned to major in theater, but I didn't like the theater department at the time, and I don't want to like malign anyone. Um, but it was very pretentious. Um, and it was not my attitude to theater. It was very much like, we do theater. I don't know what you do. I was sort of like, I don't love it.
I've
And
heard that a lot from a lot of drama schools. I've heard that a lot.
yeah. You know what's interesting about that is that I don't know if you've found this, but I find that like most working actors are not pretentious in that way. Like if you get to the point where you're like making a living at acting, it's not only are you good at what you do, but you're also good at working with other people. So it's
Yeah.
funny that there's that kind of culture, because you actually need a certain amount of humility to be an actor.
But do you not think that the culture comes from the people in the institution teaching? Because when you
Yeah,
get
partly.
audiobook narrators, I know they all say such a supportive community, it's such a wonderful community. But and then they say, unlike acting. Like when I first started, that was kind of the thing. Unlike actors. And I know people said all that about actors, but my experience of actors were was so supportive, because
Hmm.
every single one of them, even the successful ones, had long bouts of unemployment and
Yeah.
truly got it, and were creative and found that it was different than narrating, because they were humbled regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder if there's a difference in acting culture in different, I mean, I was very much a stage actor, so I don't know if it was different, people who were doing more screen stuff. But yeah, I
Yeah.
had the same experience as you. I mean, of course, there's bad eggs everywhere, but that mostly, yeah, mostly people were supportive and down to earth. And yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't have that experience. I mean, sometimes there was a little bit of competition, like if somebody got something that you wanted, or
I did have a girl try to trash my confidence in the waiting room before a commercial audition, but I didn't know it until later. But I was
that's
on the
crazy.
set. It was only an extra part in the sitcom. I was literally only an extra in that one. Wasn't expecting anything, just needed the money. And every single other extra, every single one, they made it like their mission to fix my career woes, and gave me every bit of training and advice and industry information and
No,
contacts and everything they could think of. They were the
that's
reason I even started burlesque, because they gave me, it was. And the one time I was at a corporate job, and my boss was horrible, horrible. Literally, I was, after having had my self-esteem ripped apart for 10 years with this guy, it was like a final straw. I think he called me in a meeting room and said that the way my appearance upset and made everyone uncomfortable, nobody wanted to look at me. There was something wrong with me. He couldn't tell me specifically what I wore, but it was just me. And
that's
and
insanity.
nobody liked me. And basically, why did I think that what I did was good? And he just ripped me to shreds. But this was after 10 years of gaslighting. So he'd beaten me down, and I went back into my room, and I have a point, and I swear I'll edit this out because it is the Hope Newhouse call. but
No, this is
I,
interesting.
I went back in, and I went on the British Actors Network, 10,000 people on that group. And because I was acting on the side, and I said, this just happened. I'm never going to be an actress. If I can't show up at work and people don't even want to look at me, I just, give up. I'm not kidding you. It was like a group of 10,000 people, and 9,999 of them happened to be home in the middle of the afternoon that day, and immediately messaged all the reasons that corporate reality wasn't true and I should do it. And these are film stage, these are actors that get it. That,
Yeah.
the soul of an actor
Yeah,
gets
people
it.
do get it. And I wonder if there are certain institutions, sometimes people who go into to teaching in a higher institution, it's also maybe there's some frustration about not
Yeah.
doing the acting. And then you pair that with, a lot of young actors who think they're hot shit, who haven't actually tried to do any acting and been rejected and had to get up and had to be okay, how do I construct myself in a way that's resilient to that? Because we have to, we're
Yeah.
all resilient now to, the number of times we get rejected on a weekly basis it's a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, if you don't have that.
What's your relationship with rejection right now? Because it evolves,
Yeah,
I know.
it does. In audiobooks, I feel like I have a pretty good mental system. I, um, I feel like with, the coaching that I've done and the kinds of books that I get, I'm like, okay, I am a professional audiobook narrator, and I will just, what I always do for myself is I just assume that the audition I sent in was great. Like that may or may not be true, but I'm like, psychologically, that's what I have to believe, that like the audition I sent in was great. And then if I don't get the part, I assume that, for some other reason, like they wanted a voice that was a little bit, less peppy, or they wanted a voice that was a little bit older, or they just heard a voice and they were like, oh my God, that's it. And it wasn't me. Um, and so like when I frame it for myself that way, it actually, I mean, just rolls right off me.
Because
I'm
it's
kind of like, yep,
subjective. So what's good and what's
yes,
bad? So unless you're doing something wrong, then subjectively, no, it's whatever somebody's deciding. So we get to decide. So you're deciding. You're great. What's the choice?
that's that's what
Alternative?
I've
You
decided.
decide
Yeah.
you're crap.
Right,
But we
exactly. Or
do a
just be
lot
like
of the time.
constantly worried. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
we don't make that
yeah,
decision. So
yeah. Or we try to read into it, and like honestly, we can't know. Like we can't know what's happening on the other side of that.
yeah,
And having been on the casting side for theater, not for audiobooks, but like I know also the position that you're in when you cast, and how true it can be that you saw a lot of really great auditions and you couldn't cast everybody, or somebody was really amazing but they just weren't at all right for that role.
yeah.
And so I just try to tell myself that, yeah, that's, I'm sure I was amazing, but I wasn't right for that one.
But you really, that's really hit home recently because I've been talking to a lot of writers and
Mm,
working with writers and publishers, which is a bit of a shift. And the
mm,
thing that I used to dread was the whole, are they going to like me? Because when they don't like you and it doesn't fit, it's really hard. So I'm really, really tough at the 15-minute sample. We have got to, we have got, I have got to be the perfect voice instinctually for me. Because if I'm not, I'm going to spend the whole time worrying and you're going to spend the whole time not happy. And
mm.
ironically, I've been turning down a lot of work, which is so scary and hard money wise, scares my
Yeah.
good old scarcity. But my point is that it's really, really hit home how I've now had so much feedback that I'm not worried that I'm not good,
Mm.
but to someone, I could be awful. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. It just means to them, I'm awful.
Yeah. Not their cup of tea or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So tell me, so I want to hear about your glamorous life and how you ended up in Paris, France, and how exciting it was and how you made the decision and if you were like as excited as I imagine I would be, so I can live vicariously through your romantic, gorgeous life. Go ahead.
Okay, so I actually, so I studied abroad when I was at Skidmore. I studied abroad actually my senior year, my first semester, my senior year, in Aix-en-Provence, which is in the south of France, in
Wow.
Provence.
Did you go with like all your school friends and you all look cool? And did you like, was it that great experience we read about in all the American books?
I don't think anyone else from my school was there. It was just me, but I made friends there. So we're a whole bunch of, students living the life. It was really fun, and it's beautiful, that area. It's very beautiful. Um, and I fell in love with the woman who at the time was the secretary at the center where I was studying.
That's
So
actually
that was a
really romantic. Was it,
that
but
was
were
a bit
you like,
yeah.
was that like forbidden because she worked there and you didn't?
Yeah, totally. I mean, forbidden, like, I mean, there was no power dynamic, but it certainly wasn't like, yeah, I mean, and she was a bit older, and I mean, is a bit older than me. Um, and so, yeah, there was definitely like a forbidden romance. And I had also I'd never been with a woman before. So it took me kind of a while to figure that bit out. I was like, huh, what is going on here? I'm sure it's just some crazy French fling.
Okay, so I'm just trying to imagine. We've all read plenty of romance books, whether we're romance narrators or not. So let me draw the picture for myself. So this is your first trip abroad. This is like your first time abroad, or is this
I
the
mean, I had
second?
as a tourist, I'd been abroad
No,
before,
but
but yeah, this
this
is the first
your
long, yeah.
first. So you've packed your bags, you've got all your best outfits, you're really excited, it's a new country. How long were you there before you met the person that you met, your secretary?
Oh, we met right away, but it was kind of one of those, oh my gosh, it was totally a nerdy courtship too, because like we would talk to each other about language stuff too. Um, and you know, we would like share things about the dictionary, and I'd be like, oh, what do you think of this thing? And we'd share readings, and it was the nerdiest courtship that you could possibly imagine, I have to say.
I think so.
Um,
Did you? And this is from somebody that's with someone from another country. Did you get that? Because you don't know, because you're going to go home, aren't you? Are you
yeah.
thinking, what am I going to be pen pals with this person? What's running through your mind? You're like, I'm never going to see her again.
Yeah, it was devastating. And I really didn't think that I didn't think it was necessarily going to continue, although it was like very, very intense. But also it like a lot of questioning for me about like who I was and my sexuality and all that stuff. So
Identity.
there was a lot going on
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me. Um, yeah, and she just really
Everything,
stayed
not
in
just
touch.
that, a different country, different language,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
entire life. That's a seismic shift, isn't it?
It was huge. It was huge. Yeah. And then when I had to go back to finish my degree, and we just like had this very, yeah, we had this very passionate, like we would write each other these long emails and call each other on the phone. And we did this kind of like getting to know you thing, where we would like ask, these kind of like specific questions. And we sort of had a beginning of the relationship that I think is really different from most people, where like you're in that phase where you like, can't stop touching each other, but like we couldn't do that. So we did a lot of intellectual um, thing. And then when I was graduating, I was like, well, I guess I could, like, I can't really go to Aix-en-Provence, but I guess I could go study theater in Paris if you want to come up to Paris. And she did, and I was like, this is gonna be a crazy lesbian fling. I'll be back in 3 months. And I was not. We got married, we had a kid, we're divorced now, but like we were together for 13 years, and we're still friends in true lesbian fashion, right?
What a
Listen,
kid.
stereotypically.
Your
Huh?
kid was the star of Cup of Joe. I remember it was like the first or second call, and your little girl showed up on that call. The star. I mean,
Oh my
that
God.
is like some
Yes.
stage presence. I mean, I know when children get older, you can't put them on social media so much. So, you know,
Yeah.
I respect that. But like that little girl is going to rule the world. I I
She's
remember that call. I mean, why would I remember that call? It's just like, and we appreciate that as actors, that like, the je ne sais quoi, the stage presence, the
yeah, she's got charisma. Yeah, she does.
so
Yeah.
you got a divorce and you've already,
Yeah.
but France is now your home, huh? Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we share custody of Ella anyway, so we have to live in the same place. So yeah, but I do. I have a life here and a community here, and I mean, to me, it's always and I have a partner now as well. I mean, the divorce was like 5 years ago, so
yeah,
I
my
have another
husband was
friend.
like that. My husband was like, "Oh, you move back to America if we ever get divorced." I'm like, "Are you kidding?
Yeah,
I've been here for like 20 years. What would I do in America? I wouldn't. You Home is home.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. It's true. Although I don't know if you think about this now too, but like, I mean, I used to be doing stage acting in France. Now I'm mostly working with like American audiobook publishers. So
Yeah,
in
me
some
too.
sense, my career is also in the United States. But I'm like, well, I'm here. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
work with
like that though. It
other people as
assuages
well.
some homesickness, don't you think?
Yeah, I do like it. I do like it. It is very cool.
I think it's the way it should be. I always have. My father's from Italy, and we
Mm.
spent every summer there, every, winter in California. I grew up thinking I believed in a world where you just go when you're a kid, they showed us a film, Christmas in all the different countries, and the Norwegian girl walked downstairs in her white pajamas and did some traditional Norwegian thing. And I remember thinking, I'm going to have I'm going to live in every country in the world and speak every language. I just don't see why we can't
That
be like it's a small world after all.
I know, I know. I agree. I also wanted to learn every language in the world. I was like, I'm going to learn that one and that one.
Yeah.
Turns out you actually have to spend a lot of time to learn a language.
I still want to learn Italian properly. I understand it,
Yeah.
but I've got a self-confidence problem with speaking it, which
And
is
you have to
weird.
speak it to like
Yeah,
integrate it too, don't you? You could
yeah.
speak it to yourself. Sometimes even if you just like even just talking out loud or
Because my mother
should
used
do
to
that.
laugh at me when I would try to speak Italian. I think
Oh, that doesn't
it
help.
was a thing between when we were little, we spoke it, but it was her thing with her
Mm.
husband. Like she learned Italian, they spoke Italian. So whenever we would try to speak it, she would laugh. And so I've got like a
Ah.
thing. I'm gonna learn. I'm thinking Duolingo.
Yeah, I've been doing Duolingo for Spanish because I studied so I ended up majoring in French. Um because I didn't because the theater department was too pretentious and the French department was tiny and full of very passionate people who loved what they were doing and I love a teacher who's passionate about what they're doing.
Very smart,
But I
very
studied
smart.
Spanish as well, but I haven't practiced it. And so, yeah, I've been trying to keep up with it on Duolingo. It does help when I think it'd be hard to like learn a language from scratch on there, but like if you know the language and what you want to do is like, practice and keep it up and remember the syntax and the vocabulary and all that stuff, I do find it helpful.
I understand it perfectly. Like I don't need subtitles. I grew up with my father speaking Italian and all his friends around our kitchen table like every minute of my life, just
Yeah.
having the confidence to speak it. So,
Hmm.
they would speak Italian, I would speak American. So yeah, so I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking Duolingo. Okay, so tell me more about Hope. I want to because I've listened to your samples
Oh.
and you somehow, unless you are really, really good at choosing samples, connect completely to the script. Like all of us have a million samples. And in most of our samples, there are some that you can tell they've taken it from maybe the wrong part of the book, or it's the first bit of the book. But every single sample of yours is like a demo, is like you've had a coach and
Oh.
you've worked on that sample. And so I'm assuming it's your acting background, but I'd love to hear your
I
thought
hope so.
process when you go in and you do your job and your relationship to the work and how has that evolved since starting recording?
Hmm. That's a very good question. I think I do go in with the acting training, you know, um, and trying to connect to the character, even when it's third person. A lot of times there is kind of like a point of view, and because I do a lot of young adult and middle grade stuff, often that's first person.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you choose
but
that
even when it's
genre or did you just flow into it because you were so good at it?
um, I guess I think both. I mean, I have a voice that's good for young adult, middle grade, and my adult voice is young sounding. So, um, but I also really I love those stories. I mean, I read young adult books for pleasure. Like I find that I find that a good writer can address things in a very um yeah, in a very deep way, even when they're writing for young adults. I mean, it depends on who's doing the writing, but yeah, I really love that as a genre. So I think I remember when I did my very first like the first time I did a speed dating like right before COVID. It was like the last in-person one in New York. And somebody asked me, somebody from Harper, I think, asked me like, what would you do? What would your ideal book be? If you could do any book, any genre. And I said, I'd really like to tell like young adult fiction with queer characters, like the kind of thing that I wish I had been able to read as a kid. And that now exists more and more in the publishing world, but really didn't exist, when I was little. And she sent me the very first, I don't know if it was, yeah, it was one of the early young adult, it was a middle grade books that I did, with like a lesbian first crush. And
I love that. I
and
love that those are being made now. We hear all the negative news and all the crap and all the book banning. And then I hear that books like that are being made, and it makes me happy. It just simply makes me happy. There are things about this new world that are better than the old world. And
yeah,
that's
there's
one of
so
them.
much more out there. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, people want to ban it, but like it's out there. It exists.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
I did 11 children's books recently that they're not going to be like on Audible. They're like for schools.
Mm,
And my
cool.
first reaction was, really? You sure you want me for these? But I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I didn't expect to enjoy it. But you know what? And maybe this is what you're talking about with the YA. It was nice being able to spend time in that place of hope and wonder.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I
Yeah.
do think that. I think those books are very hopeful, and we could use that, but a lot of times, when they're well written, they're not like naive,
Yeah.
but because young adults and children also struggle with the things of the world, like they have, they come up against difficulties, they come up against tragedy, but you're not going to write a young adult book where everything, I mean, it's not going to be like Camus.
Yeah, and actually, I remember thinking, "Oh, I've learned a lesson from this one. That's embarrassing." It was like for 7-year-olds. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm quoting," and the other one was dealing with like death, and I'm like, "Are you sure you're allowed to say that?" But it is.
Right.
It's life, but from maybe a purer. Before we just got so full of all this, all this. So,
Yeah.
is that being a mother and everything? And
Mm.
do you think, because I'm noticing a lot of the panic and existential crisis that bubble up occasionally in the social media and the groups and everything. There's a focus on, because of this job and rejection and who I am in the place, without the balance. There's no balance of like what's important, do you know what I mean? Because do you
Mm.
think that being in charge of a young mind, which, because you have to be centered and balanced and remember the important things. Do you think that protects you in a way? Remind, I mean, even just my pet reminds me if I leave the booth of what matters, right? Do
Yeah.
you do you think it
Mm.
helps remind you of like the reality as opposed to this digital world that we're all kind of like bombarded with 24/7?
I mean, it does get you out of your booth, right? Like I
Yeah,
can't, got to go pick up my daughter from school. I got to drop her off. I got to pick her up. So then I have to leave the house at least twice a day.
yeah, yeah,
um, and that's very helpful. I think there's a few ways in which being a mom, it's interesting because like a lot of people say that, motherhood is usually a negative on a woman's career. In some careers, I think that's definitely probably true. Um, I found that it was quite the opposite. I think when I was, when I was struggling to be an actor and just like trying to get the jobs, and I had so much of a scarcity mentality
yeah, yeah,
of like, if I don't take this job is badly paid and it's long hours, but if I don't take it, who knows what else is going to come. And when I had my daughter, I felt like, you know, even just like I felt like I was doing something so meaningful when I was spending time with her. I was like, this has meaning. I'm watching this little person grow up and I'm accompanying her. And I was like, and if you want me to do something else, it better be either meaningful or well paid.
yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I was like valuing my time so much more than I had before because I was like, oh, I'm doing something with my time, I'm doing something great. Yes, I also still need to make money, but I started like asking for higher rates or rejecting things that were an embarrassingly low rate because I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. Like I have something important to do.
You were
And the
working from
other,
the inside out. from the core of what
Yeah.
matters, and everything else.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I
And the
love
other thing
that.
that I think is uh, I think that making like being a mother also makes you more fragile. Like there's emotionally, there's like, because there's this person in the world that if anything happened to them, you would die. Like you would not be able to go. I mean, I know mothers do go on, but you would not be feel like you would not be able
I've
to go
heard that.
on.
Yeah.
And so I feel like now when when I read when I read young adult books before, I was relating to the child character, and I still do. Like I have so much fondness for children and for my childhood, and there's so many things that I remember and I'm able to relate to, but then I'm also relating to the adult characters and the mother characters. And I remember I was narrating this book, 54 Things Wrong with Gwendolyn Rogers. It's about a girl who's uh, maybe ADHD, maybe has some other learning difference, and she's having trouble getting a diagnosis, and she keeps getting in trouble in school. And it's from her point of view, and she's trying so hard, and she decides to apply the like 12-step AA program to like getting her life on track, because she'd come across this list of all the things that are wrong with her, and it's like from the school. It's just very horrible. But so she decides to do this like, almost AA thing of like, how do I go through these steps? Um, and it's heart-wrenching. Like her emotions are heart-wrenching. But there's also her mom who like is trying so hard, is both extremely frustrated by some of her behaviors, and is also trying so hard to like protect her from the world and get her the help she needs. And like, I was just like, I mean, I just feel so hard for both of those characters.
I think
And I
you've
find that
answered the
happens to me.
question of how every single one of your samples is so spot on, because you're feeling for your characters,
Yeah.
which is first, before tongue rolls and warm ups. I mean, not timeline before, but
Yeah. Yeah. You do
it's
the tongue
above
rolls
it
first,
all.
but
Yeah. Kim says,
yeah.
I will put off going into my booth if my 19-year-old son has engaged me in a conversation. Yes, and
Aww.
okay, I know it's annoying to like mothers when I do this, but when little Vladdy wants a kiss, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings you out of yourself. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah,
It does.
caring. Yeah, I
Aww.
think being pulled down into the focus and the energy of kind of the tangible things, what matters, helps us. Because
Yeah.
isn't that what we're delivering to the listeners? That's what we're delivering, isn't it? We're we're
Yeah.
we're putting all those emotions into safe hands so they can experience it through the
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we have to be connected in our lives in order to have those emotions to share as well, right?
And I see so many people just say, when they join, in case anyone new is listening, what would you say to them when they join and they're trying to tick the boxes and they're trying to join the right groups and they're trying to do the right things and be seen and be successful and digitally market themselves properly? What would your advice to them be?
It's so hard, isn't it? Because there's so many things that you're asked to do and to be an expert at, and you can't be an expert at all of them. Um, but I do think that being an expert at your craft is the most important thing,
Yeah.
more important than the market. I mean, you do need to let people know what it is you do, but I mean, yeah, like you said, if you're connecting to the text and you're taking care of those technique bits that can kind of get in the way or distract the listener because I don't know, whatever it is, a sibilant des or
Yeah.
a vocal fry or just techniques that make you able to like narrate for many hours at a time, because you have to be able to do that as well. Um,
For a while, a
but to me,
vocal
like,
fry would have booked you jobs. It was a trend for a
yeah,
while.
well, I think I mean, but it's good to be able to turn it on and off, right? Because like
Yeah.
it's great to have that for some characters, because there are some characters that really need that vocal fry, but if that's your natural voice, you know, that you're
Yeah.
doing all the time, it's going to limit you, you know.
You know, I tried
But you're right.
once. I faked and I didn't fake it, but I was, it hits us. I think it hits you maybe when you're tired. Now I ask myself, when I get in all this existential crisis, I'm like, Daniela, do you need a nap? Because it really kind of is like that. Are you
No, I
tired?
think
Have
you're
you,
right.
you know, and
Are you getting enough sleep? Did you have a meal?
yeah, exactly. Did you brush your teeth, have a meal? Do you need a nap, maybe? A sweet? We've got biscuits. It's
I know.
like,
Well, see, you have to mother yourself a little bit, don't you?
well, I wasn't, you know what? I wasn't good at that. And I learned that
Yeah.
people that just survive on type A, it's a spiritual crisis because your body, you're like, I'm fine, I'm busy, leave me alone. But your body is dying. Your body is like going to show up in weird symptoms. You need to, you've got to take time, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
How do you do? So what is your schedule like? Like, what is
Yeah.
your life like? Describe your glamorous life in Paris as a working audiobook narrator slash actress.
Good question. I mean, on any given day, usually, you know, I do the school drop off in the morning. Well,
Oh, do
we
they
do
wear
50/50. So
uniforms? Like I picture a
they
little
don't.
French girl. Oh, okay.
No. I mean, you can picture it if you want, but she wishes, man. She wishes she could wear a uniform. She thinks that's so cool.
It is. It's really cool. Okay, so
Um,
school drop off. Do you eat croissants for breakfast?
not every day, no, because that would just not be good for your health, would it? I actually tend to not eat breakfast. I've found that because like in the morning, right? I mean, you know this, the amount of time you can record in a morning session is up to when your stomach starts grumbling for lunch. And so, but also you have the digestion grumbles. So
Yeah,
it's really, you got to find that balance, right?
yeah.
So I definitely more of an evening person than a morning person, and my body doesn't wake up right away. So a lot of times what I do is just like have a cup of tea and then I get in the booth and then I'll stop for kind of an early lunch, like around 11:30 or 12, and then I give myself some time to digest.
What time do you start
Um
recording? Like, what time do you wake up in the morning? I'm comparing myself to other people because I'm so hopeless.
yeah, I mean, so it actually depends the weeks I have my daughter and the weeks I don't have my daughter. So on the school schedule, I wake up at 7, take her to school at 8, um, come back, you know, hydrate a bit. And then I probably get into the booth around 10. So I probably do like 10 to 12, have some lunch, and then 1 to 4, and then I pick her up from school.
Yeah, that's pretty realistic. That's kind of like mine, except for the waking up at 7 part. There's a
You
reason.
start a little bit later.
There's a reason I have a budgie and not a child.
I
There's a
know,
reason I
man.
didn't even get a dog. I didn't want to have to take walks.
I get that. I was like, and my daughter she does actually prefer to sleep in. So on the weekends we get to sleep in a bit. But I remember when she started school thinking to myself, "Oh man, I made a big mistake because now I got to get up for school for another 10 years." I'm like, I thought I was done with that.
Yep. Yep. I
I
don't
was like,
think
I
I'd
just like remember that sinking feeling of, oh God, I'm gonna have to get up for school again. It's just the worst. It's the worst
yeah,
timing for me.
early mornings are not like a thing. But I do find that I'm twice as fast recording in the morning as I am in the afternoon. Do you
Are
find
you?
do you find your attention varies throughout the day, your focus?
Yeah, you might be right. You might be right about that. Although, sometimes because of the time difference, like this week I have a directed session, the the recording day starts at 3 p.m., which I do not find terribly convenient. But
What time does it? Oh, see, that's the other thing. After 6 o'clock, I am just a ball of resentment. If I have to record like later, like I just don't want to do it. And I could do it physically, but I just don't want to. I know Hillary said she always stops at 5. I think it was 5 or 6 o'clock. She doesn't do it afterwards because she doesn't like it. And
I can record in the evening. I actually like that quite a bit. If there's nothing, but also I want to spend time with my family, so it's
yeah,
not a convenient time to record. But just in terms of my energy, I actually do like recording in the evenings. Um, I have more energy in the evenings. I love the um like the French have, apéro time, like appetizer time. Do you know about
so
this?
chic. I want to be French. It's not
Right. And so
fair.
at like at like 6 or 7, like that's like the cultural thing is you have a drink, you have an appetizer, you like chill out. And I remember like um I met this French woman who ran an Airbnb that I like, or not a B&B that I went to for many years, but she and her husband retired. But she was like, she would say it's the apéro is the hour of grace. She goes, once it gets to apéro time, if you've done it, it's done, and if you haven't done it, it's not for today.
And it's 6 to 7.
It's like, yeah, it's like around 6 or 7, yeah,
And
because
then what
they
time do
tend to
they
have
eat dinner?
like around 8.
Gosh. And then what time do they go to bed? Like, because if you've eaten at 8,
Yeah, it
well,
depends on the people.
gosh, that's like, but so yeah, actually that makes sense because that's why I can't record after that, but I can do Joe calls because that's
Mm,
socializing. That feels like my father
yeah,
having his friends over for dinner and talking all night. That kind of energy.
right.
Doesn't feel like work energy. You know what I
Yeah, it
mean?
takes a different concentration. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder now I'm going to study what time French people normally go to bed because how do you eat at 8 o'clock and digest your food? I think that's a very American attitude towards it, isn't it? Like, what time exactly? I want the rules and instructions on how to be French. What do you think of all those French books? How to be French, how to eat like a French person, how to be chic. Are those like a
Oh,
joke?
I yeah, I don't know about those.
I'm a sucker for it. I like to think, I know that like everything, it's advertising, it's not, real life. But I love those style books and those how to be Italian, how to be. I love those because you like to think I could repackage myself and wake up tomorrow a whole new girl, you know.
Yeah, it's a way of dreaming a new you.
Yes, I love a new you. I'm a sucker for a new you. So,
Uh,
can I ask you?
mhm.
So I think now I've pinned down why you're so madly successful, like sought after by publishers and like your sample. I mean, you are. You seem a little bit humble, like you don't realize who you are in the industry. You don't realize who you
I,
are in the industry, do you?
maybe not.
You're you're well respected and amongst your fellow narrators, definitely. And
Oh, thank
I'm
you. It's a dream.
thinking
come true.
I'm thinking it's because you kind of bring your whole self to things you do. Am I right? It seems like you work hard to just show up, to show
I
up
hope
as you.
so. I hope so. That's what I would like to do.
Well, it's admirable. It's not so easy these days. We all put on
Hmm.
faces and masks and paint and color and distract. Don't look at this, look at that. And
Hmm.
it seems like you just like show up and do you meditate? Do you do anything to maintain that?
Um, Sometimes, yeah. I'm not as assiduous as I would like to be. But I do have a spiritual practice, and meditation. I go to church as well.
Awesome. You
Yeah,
sound too.
I have a spiritual connection. And I try to get my body moving too. Like again, I don't like I'm not super rigid about it, but I try to like go for a walk or go for a run or do some yoga. And um I find that that really helps my mind as well. Like,
I hate yoga. I'm so bad at it. I tried.
are you?
After
Oh
the
man.
call. I
Love it.
tried Sarah Pagluccia. She's
Uh-huh.
amazing, and I tried really
Mm.
hard, but like horrible at it. I'm really horrible at it. I'm
Mm.
bad.
Yeah, I mean, I started with in-person classes, and I think it's nice to, like, somebody has to show you a little bit what you're doing if
Yeah,
you've never done it before. Um,
yeah, I'm bad.
but yeah, but it's like yeah, it's about relaxing into things that aren't comfortable, and I feel like that's kind of what life is about.
Yep, which is probably why I'm not so great.
I'm not always good at that either, honestly. Sometimes I do kick and scream when things don't go my way, at least
I love.
mentally.
So, can I ask you? So I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Oh, okay.
Like I like to at the end of every call, I like to see if you could leave the YouTube audience that's going to be watching this in the next 200 years with anything from this call. If they could take away anything from this call, or word of advice, or something you'd like to leave with people, what would it be?
Mm. Yeah, I would say that like um it's worth spending the time to like get to know yourself. So yeah, so that you can bring that to what you do and to care about other people. If you're just connecting to yourself and no one else, it's not worth much.
Yeah, because we can get lost, can't we? Somebody brought that up on that call earlier today. They said, I worry I've got books that have released and I don't want to put them out because I don't want to be posting too much. And I think
Mm,
we've lost track. Like, but what about the author? If I share a book, I'm sharing it for the author. It's like the point, like, what about telling the story? What
yeah.
about
Yeah.
showing up and just like kind of like leading your life, which is why I admire the hell out of you. I do. And also because I'm a tiny
Oh.
bit jealous and want to live in Paris, France. But
Well, you have to come over to Paris, France.
I'd love to. I would love to. It's been ages since we've traveled. And I've got a secret guilty my VR headset. Um,
Mm,
there's a YouTube guy that does walks in Paris. You
okay.
must have heard of him. He
Oh.
does the walks through the shopping districts and the streets, Paris in the rain, Paris in the autumn,
Oh.
Paris at Christmas. And I put that on my YouTube, my VR headset, and pretend that I'm walking through Paris.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Well, you should come for real. Hey, the Eurostar is really fast. I just took it this weekend.
Yeah? Is it so? Is it, but are we still allowed to go over there now that the Brexit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to go through customs like you would if you took the plane.
Huh. I need to start traveling again. Yes, it's been.
But yeah, it's super easy and you go through all of the formalities before you get on the train. So when you get off, you're good. You go into the city.
We went to Disney Paris. Has your daughter gone to Disney Paris?
Oh my gosh. She is obsessed.
The
We've gone,
best Disneyland. It's the best.
I
We
know.
went on the
She
Eurostar to
loves it.
Disney Paris. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
best.
great. And she's at the perfect age, but also we're also at the perfect age because there's no wrong age. But
Yeah.
like we took her for her 7th birthday and she was like the whole time she was like,
Yeah.
everything was like, this is the most amazing thing ever.
It
And she's like, we
is
have to go
though.
back next year. And we
And
did, and
it's
it was just as amazing. Like she just loves it.
there's a feeling to it. I mean, we used to go all the time to Disneyland in LA, but there's a feeling
Yeah.
to the Paris one that's just it's there's something it's literally magical. It is.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's special. So come on over. We'll go to Disney. Well, I'll
I
bring my
love
daughter. We can all hang out at Disney.
I will definitely consider it. It's not that far. It's not as intimidating as going back to America. It's because it's actually quite close. I'd love
Yeah.
to go back to the Channel Islands, and I'd love to,
Mm.
you know, have you ever been to the Channel
No,
Islands?
no, I haven't. I've seen them from the French side.
You got to go check them out. Have you ever been to Saint Malo?
Yes,
My favorite place
I,
in the entire world.
I
I
love it.
couldn't believe my
Yeah,
eyes. And
yeah,
Dinon and Dinard, I just like I'm gonna stop before I
Yeah,
get
that's
boring.
beautiful area. Yeah, I love it too. I love it too. Yeah, and actually we took my daughter to Saint-Malo when she was like almost just like 2, not quite 2 years old, and she loved it so much that she like made up a song about it and she sang it for like years. She'd be like, Saint-Malo, Saint-Malo, and she kept being like, when are we going back to Saint-Malo? And she'd like get out on the piano and like I mean just bang
It's
out notes and sing.
otherworldly. It's
Yeah.
like you would read about it in like a vampire fairy tale book. It's not real. It doesn't feel like
Yeah.
you're in this actual world.
No,
It's
it has a
it's
kind of like swashbuckling adventure vibe, but also magical
the
and
air is a
yeah.
different color than in other places. And then we
The
went to
sand
Dinan.
sparkles. The
Oh
sand
yes,
sparkles, right? I love that. Like when
yeah.
the water comes in, it goes out, and you're like, is it spark? Why is it made of glitter? The sand is
Like
glitter.
there are places in the world, and not even just the places that we've been to, but there are places in the
Yeah.
world that are so transcendent, and we don't
Yeah.
even think we're busy living. And I even Dinan, I think it was Dinan. It wasn't Dinan. It was Dinan. We woke up one day. We didn't. It was like a bank holiday weekend, so we go to sleep in this little
Mhm.
like town, and we wake up, and the entire town has become an open market with like parasols and hats and
Oh, so
baguettes.
fun.
I was like
That's
magic.
so
So I love this call because it's reminded me that there's so much magic outside of my booth. I should at least take a walk this week.
well, there you go. That's a good takeaway.
Yes, yes, I love that.
Get outside the booth. Enjoy life.
I'm so glad we were able to make this happen. Hope I have admired you
Me too.
for ages, and
Oh, thank
mostly
you.
because
That's very kind.
your daughter was like so cool on that call. She made you
She's the best part of
unforgettable.
me.
She
Aw.
is. She made
Aw.
you unforgettable on that call. But
Aw.
also your because of your huge talent, but also because of who you are for us in the community. You
Oh, well,
are
thank
just
you.
yourself and you show up. And I think sometimes
Oh,
it's good to be reminded that we can just show up and be around each other. And it's nice and it's lovely. And I'm very grateful that you took the time to hang out with us tonight.
thank you so much for setting this up. And that means a lot, all of those beautiful things you said, Daniela. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. And thank you, Kim. Mwah.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Bye. Bye. Talk to you later.
Bye.